Hey everybody, I'm Scott Harkey and welcome to another episode of Endava's Payment Talks, where we explore the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities in the payments industry. Today's episode is especially exciting as we'll be diving into the world of instant payments with a focus on our recent report, Understanding Instant Payment Solution Providers. Joining us today is Elena Casal, Chief Client Officer at the Clearinghouse and a key figure in the instant payments and financial innovation space. Elena, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, happy to have the conversation. We've known each other a long time, and I'm excited to have something very specific to talk to you about because there's always lots we could be talking about in the payment space and things going on. But we've got a great report here that we want to highlight today and really use that as a way to open up a conversation about some of the things happening more broadly. But before we go there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be in the role that you're in today at the Clearinghouse?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I started payments, first out of grad school studying economics. So I kind of love how money moves within the economy and the importance of it. So that's kind of the foundation of how I got into payments and then took it from there. I spent most of my career actually in the financial services industry with different fintech providers, building software for financial institutions around the world and in the US. And so that's been the heart of what I do. And when I moved to the clearinghouse, it was really to bring the client voice into the company as well as share what TCH is about, running ACH wires, check image, and launching real-time payments back in 2017. So I have the luxury, I guess, to talk about payments every day to our customers, to hear what they need today as well as in the future, and work with their ecosystem partners, be it software providers, be it their customers, to build that next generation of payments that we all need, right? To keep up with the trends going on today from the consumer and business side. So my team and I get to go out every day to talk to customers and hear what they need. So it's really exciting times.
Yeah, I imagine that's a great role to be in, to just continue to have exposure to all different facets of the industry, right? I've got experience working at banks in the past as well, and one of the things I really enjoyed moving into consulting was just the expansion of my view of the payments industry, right? Because when you're in one kind of stream of it, you think of the world from that lens. And then you get out of it into something more broad and it's something like, oh, wait a minute. The way I was thinking about that was actually pretty narrow because it was just that one point of view. These things impact lots of different entities in lots of different ways. So I imagine it's pretty cool to have that broader perspective.
Yeah.
Fun thing about the Clearinghouse to me, we've been working with the Clearinghouse for a long time. Clearinghouse is one of those organizations that is so critical to the financial infrastructure of the US, but a lot of people who aren't in payments have no idea exist, right? So it's always fun to dig deeper into some of this stuff with you guys. But today we're focused on really talking about the recent report that we worked on together and again, some of the insights from that and how it helps shape the thinking about some of the trends more broadly. But as we worked on this report, could you maybe share a little bit about your intention with the report? What was your goals or objectives in helping be part of this study and put this together and really looking to capture something with this report?
Yeah, you know me, I have a vision, right? And so I definitely had a vision with this report, and it came from every conversation we had with US financial institutions as well as their partners on just the amount of information that was out there related to, now that we know we need real-time payments, how do I start? Where do I go to get information? How do I connect? What are the different components within my organization? How do I get my bank ready, right? How do I get my credit union ready? We were hearing that every day, and we couldn't find really kind of a level playing field of information to not necessarily compare apples to apples, but to bring kind of an equal playing field of the different partners that were in the instant payment space and what part of the processing do they do, right? Where were their strengths? Where were they focused on? And it was very much a challenging exercise for all size financial institutions. And so I had a vision to, create a consolidated way for someone to get started. So it's not going to answer every single question. There's no document or report that could do that. But to me, it brought a fundamental level of information to help them ask them the next set of questions to their partners that they might have. So when financial institutions pick, the vendor of choice that they work with today or looking forward in the future, they now have an ability to say, where's your strength in the process that might help my strategic point of view? And so that to me was my vision. And I know in the industry, while RTP has been live for, since 2017, every year we find more opportunities and of different service providers that are offering real-time payments, either online banking, mobile banking, back office integration, even real-time billing, right? Real-time visibility. There's so much out there that this is the start to that. And, maybe we'll do another one in a year and we can see how far we've come. That's definitely been kind of the forefront of my mind of the intent of this report.
Yeah, and we definitely see a lot of the same thing with organizations that we work with, and that often even knowing how to think about the different options in the marketplace is a big hurdle. The interesting thing about the payment space has been over the last couple of years, every provider is going, it feels like they're going deeper and wider, right? Like they're offering more and more capabilities. And sometimes it's hard to tell, okay, well, if I need to just connect into the rail, do I use this entity or that entity or that entity versus if I need orchestration or if I need, some other business process to exist or I need a user experience on top of it. So I think trying to, like you said, just have a starting place of like, here's at least almost like a map of the players and a way to think about how they engage in different parts of the value chain. Then organizations can dig a lot deeper, right, and actually do some comparative analysis and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And maybe when we did this partly was also we did a bit of work to show that from all the third-party service providers that were connected to the RTP network, we could reach, say, 98% of all financial institutions, meaning that every financial institution has a choice of joining today. They could join today based upon their partners that they have out there. And that was an amazing statistic that we were able to get to. But at the same time, just like most in the US, we love choice. Sometimes there's too many choices. And so to your point of how do you narrow it down to get to the heart of what your organization might want for today and for the future, this, set the stage for that set of conversations.
yeah, absolutely. If we think about kind of the broader impact and why this even matters, right? Why do organizations even, why are they thinking about how to connect to RTP, or why are they thinking about how to enable instant payments? What do you see as the biggest drivers that organizations you work where they're really thinking about to help make the case for that?
Yeah, we think about just living day to day. We think about it from the consumer perspective as well as from the corporate perspective. And, from the corporate perspective, thinking about cash flow, thinking about, the funding, thinking about kind of their pool of resources that they have day in and day out to be able to then unlock cash to go do something else. That requires a level of real-time processing of some capability. And so we think there's a lot to uncover there. And kind of coming from that is on the consumer side, we all expect everything in real time. So that's going to naturally progress through the small business market, through the large corporate market, and get real-time confirmation of payments, right? So it doesn't need to be faster payments, moving money out faster. It is, I think, going to end up being a world where it's right just on time. It's going to be maybe from the corporate, the last possible minute that I need to pay something so I can keep my cash, right, bearing interest or working for me, that working capital. That's coming faster and faster in every day in how people operate their businesses. And so we see that today. And so building the RTP network was paramount to solving that for tomorrow's needs in our economy.
I think one of the other things we see there is just the ability to create workflows that can get more automated, right? When you don't know when a payment is going to arrive, it becomes really hard to automatically schedule or create the next step, right? It's like if I get a check in the mail, I have no idea when it's going to show up as a small business or as a consumer. So I can't automatically apply those funds to something else because I don't know when they're going to come. I think one of the things we've seen, especially in the small business use cases, is that availability of real-time confirmation. You know when the money has arrived or when the money will go out, and you can schedule the next set of activities around it. So I think those experiences are just starting to get built, right? That's not super prevalent yet. But if you think beyond the movement of the money and start to think about how can organizations, small businesses, consumers, et cetera, actually benefit from the not just the funds, as you were saying, the real-time movement of them, but the also real-time notification of when it happens. I think that's where there's still a lot of opportunity for companies to add value and build, and really enabling some of those use cases.
Yeah, I think the confirmation is going to be the hidden gem, to be honest, because it's that confirmation you said. It's also the exception of it didn't work and it didn't work
Right.
immediately. So you can go work that and not have day two processing on some of those. You can close invoices faster because you either know it's there or it's not. That's tremendous in the world that we live in. So I look forward to that confirmation, that being the real value for a lot of organizations and not being maybe even where you monetize in the future, right? So
Right.
it can be interesting.
So what are some of the things that are holding organizations back? Whether it's the banks that haven't fully adopted yet, or banks that have just turned on receive but haven't kind of turned on send, or haven't really looked at solving requests for payment. Just more generally, what are some of the things you see that are kind of really stumbling blocks, or things that banks are having to overcome?
Yeah, I think a lot I think of them in different segments depending on their journey, like you just described. There are, hundreds on the network now, and either receive only, send, and starting to dabble in it and have pilots related to it, or full maturity launch of products. They each are on their own journey. I think a lot of it still revolves around people saying no one's asking for it. And I think it's now figuring out really what they're asking for isn't going to be about a real-time payment. It's
Right.
going to be about everything else around it. So how do you engage your customers in that discussion to figure out how real-time payments can be used for whatever problem they actually have to solve? That's a different level conversation than I think a lot of organizations are used to doing. And there's a lot of opportunity there to figure out how do we create a bit of a business case or conversation points on how do I really understand the problem such that real-time payment solves that. Being, I have to have 2 days of cash on reserve because I don't know when money is posted. That's the problem, that maybe real-time payments can unlock 20-30% of that. And then on the starting of the journey, I do think there's a fundamental overload maybe of information sometimes, and they don't know what's right sized for my organization. And that's one thing I loved about this report. We had, I think, about 13 service providers that were able to contribute, and I'll just shout out, I very much appreciate all of them spending time with us and working through the questions that we had to understand where their products and their positioning was. And there was others out there that weren't able to participate. All are important, right? Those were able to begin to just break down the capabilities into something that is right sized for the organization. So instead of having to do, say, an RFP with everything under the sun, they can, financial institutions can now do an RFP with a little bit more targeted reach and targeted questions because they understand what is meaningful for their organization. So that's been a challenge, for a lot of organizations. And now I feel like we're at least unlocking that. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
it's at least a first step, right?
That's right.
One of the things that I found insightful about the experience of creating the report was actually feedback from some of the participating organizations that seeing the way that it was categorized or grouped actually helped them think about their products and how they're positioned, because as they saw the dimensions that you know the banks care about and how they think about what they're looking for in the market, it was almost like a light bulb of like, oh, wait a minute, well, we weren't even thinking that was important or that was relevant. So now, not to say they go do it necessarily, but at least kind of gave them the thought of, okay, well, actually that might be something that's important to add to the product, if that's something the market's looking for and we hadn't necessarily thought about it that way.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call out. Whenever we do a report like this, it's obviously a point in time. And
Right.
all of the providers, being in software for so long, roadmaps change and evolve, and how you position them change and evolve based upon the problems that we're solving. And that's why I love kind of the evolution of it, that organizations can be in. So we have 3 groups, right, in the report. They all are meaningful in the ecosystem of a payment. And they all come from their position of strength. So I love that. And whether they evolve to a different group, to me, is just part of a natural evolution of a cycle.
Yeah, totally agree. One other point you made I just wanted to hit on was the commentary around um, just how organizations look at it making progress with the adoption of building out the functionality. So how do banks kind of make the business case, or how do banks think about the evolution of the products? And you said something which I hear a lot too, which is around, customers aren't asking for it. So some financial institutions are hesitant to make the investment, or they struggle with making the business case. And I think what's always important there for me is thinking about the customer doesn't ask for these things a lot of times, right? They ask for an experience. And a lot of times they don't even ask for the experience because they don't know it's possible yet. It's the equivalent of like going to a customer and saying like, hey, would you like some APIs? It's like, no, I don't know what that is. What does that mean, right? It's like, no, they want some experience or some capability that an API would enable. So then organizations go and build APIs to provide real-time access to whatever it is. I view it very much the same way. If organizations aren't already, they should be doing these kind of visioning exercises with customer and customer focus groups to say, hey, if there were this new set of capabilities that existed where you could have money available real time, or you could have notification of funds as they moved here or there, or you could have, what would you want? How would you that enrich your life? Right. And really starting from that kind of first principles, like what would the life of the customer look like if they had additional new things that they could leverage? That's what creates the ask, right? It's not
Oh,
someone saying
absolutely.
like, "Ooh, I want RTP, please," like that.
No, absolutely. And that, I mean, honestly, you said it in exactly the way and why I kind of got into payments. You know, just quick side story. So my dad was an entrepreneur for a really long time. And I just remember he's like, I go and I have these invoices and I just want to get paid, and I just want to pay them. And, it depends on the method. It depends on the day. It
Yeah.
depends,
Why is it so hard? It shouldn't
and
be hard.
I'm staring at a man who is like a chemist, a genius, and he doesn't want to do that, right? He wants to do his work in chemistry in the lab, and so we're all trying to accomplish making the clients be able to do their function, and the payments just being a byproduct of that. We live in payments day in and day out. Doesn't mean that they do. And so we
Right.
kind of do need to do the work to translate into what the true intent of their customer is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, as we wrap up this conversation, I just want anything surprising about the report or the findings that maybe you didn't foresee when you started on this journey?
Yeah, I don't know about surprising, but I think it validated maybe that there are so many solutions that are right fit for your organization. And so kind of encouraging that you don't need to be overwhelmed with the choices, because there's no wrong choice. It's the right choice that fits your purpose, and the financial institution's organization, and even, partners, different types of solution providers that might not be connecting directly to the RTP network, but needing to connect to them on behalf of online banking systems, right, to create a complete experience. So to me, it validated that there is one that's right for you, and this, will hopefully help get through that initial set of questions that you have.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was a bit surprised, but just by the breadth of the offerings from organizations. I think we all see press releases and all these things that are out there from organizations, but then when you sit down and actually start working through the details, there's quite a bit of functionality out in the market. So it's pretty neat to see all the different options that institutions have, and all the different ways organizations are really trying to solve some of the same problems, right? But applying their specific value propositions or strengths to that. So
Yeah,
that's been
it's
really
tremendous.
cool.
And they can solve them differently and accomplish the same goal, right? Which I love in financial services.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today's episode of Payment Talks. Huge thank you to you, Elena, for joining us and all of your insight as always.
I appreciate the partnership. Thank you for making the report with me.
Absolutely. Happy to be part of it as well. Don't forget to check out Understanding Instant Payment Solution Providers report for a deeper look into the trends and challenges that we discussed today. As always, you can subscribe to Payment Talks on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The links are in the description. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.